I want to turn now to a sector that I've worked a lot on as a trade negotiator, and this is largely pertains to the membership sector, which is the logistics sector. I was the lead negotiator in the General Agreement on Trade and Services at the formation of the WTO in the early 1990s, and this is how I became introduced to shipping and ports and logistics. And what we are seeing in the logistics sector are a whole new set of risks and opportunities presented by the pandemic. In particular, the need for greater efficiency as a result of what happened to China is spurring the introduction of digitalization into the logistics sector. That is just a question of reducing costs, of creating efficiencies, and taking advantage, frankly, of innovations that are now quite mature and sophisticated. And the question is, how far will digitalization go in the logistics space? And my own view is it's going to go pretty far. Now, what has been interesting is that the pandemic has given yet another boost from another side to why digitalization is important. Well, digitalization, except for maybe the last mile in the logistics chain, means that when one can not have human interaction up until the last mile. Well, that is exactly the role that digitalization can play. Now, it could be the case that if we move to a point where even at the end, at the very last mile, we are using drones, we are using mechanized delivery modes, that may mean that, in fact, we have really accomplished social distancing plus taking advantage of the economic efficiencies. And this is an example, in my view, about why what we're seeing in the markets today as a result of the pandemic is not just a transitory change. I think, we have now seen an imperative, and we've seen what are the benefits from becoming more innovative, and in the case of logistics, splicing on digitalization to that sector. Now, what's interesting is if you look at your sector, the logistics sector in particular, we're seeing sort of two classes of firms dealing with this digitalization in two different ways. On the one hand, you have the traditional ports and big logistics firms who are now buying or through greenfield investments, putting in platforms, digital platforms for matching freight forwarding and other kinds of services so that they are digitalizing their own systems. On the other end of the spectrum is a whole new set of firms that have really just been around for the last 4, 5, 6 years that are essentially technology startups who are technology firms, and they are at the same time trying to match supply and demand in the freight forwarding business. You can pop on a screen, as you know, and say, I want to move something from Dubai to New York on such and such a date. Give me your air rates, give me your land rates, give me your sea rates. And these firms, are in that business. The question is, as I look forward, is that a stable equilibrium? That are we going to have both of these types of firms in the markets? And I don't think we are. I think we're going to end up probably in a situation where if there's market power practiced by the traditional firms, the port owners, and as they begin to acquire these digitized technology firms, that may well be the way that you get economies of scale and economies of scope, quite quickly. The last thing I want to say is in this world of the post-pandemic and thinking about what are the risks out there and what are the opportunities, my counsel has been don't panic, and to think about decisions that you made, business decisions that you made pre-pandemic. Presumably you made those decisions based upon sound criteria. Now, if you panic and say, well, we decided that we're going to make this investment for the following kinds of reasons, that because the economics were sound and so forth, but for the labor social distancing component, what I have seen is some companies begin to throw out that whole decision tree and start again. And I don't think that that really is a propitious way of trying to map out the opportunities and risks. You have established relationships. You don't want to end those relationships and start afresh because the search costs are high, and everybody is also in the same boat, pardon the pun. And this is where it's really important to have a rational, cool head about how to navigate going forward. So as I say, I think it's really important to maintain the relationships that you have built up. Try to fashion going forward how one can make the best of this particular situation, but not just make the best of. As I say, there are going to be opportunities. Digitalization in logistics is a perfect example. And those who are able to grab on to that kind of opportunity now and think through that are going to come out. Those are the firms that are going to come out on top. And despite these turbulent times, I think my own view is I'm actually quite optimistic. Apart from the short run economic fallout, I think from a business perspective, I think we are going to see a new round of growth, a new round of innovation going forward. It's going to take some time, but the seeds are getting planted willy-nilly, whether we like it or not, today.